Good evening, everybody. I am Fred Wellman, host of On the Line with Vote Vets, right here on every channel you can imagine. We're going live. The most absolutely amazing and disgusting thing just happened in the last 2 hours. And what happened, if you're not paying attention, is a report from NPR with an official statement from the United States Army that during yesterday's stunt by Donald Trump at Arlington National Cemetery, his staff actually got into a shoving match with a civilian employee of the Army when they tried to stop them from taking pictures in Section 60 of Arlington National Cemetery. For those who are familiar, Section 60 is where the dead from the global war on terror since 9/11 are all buried. It is some of the most hallowed ground in the world for those of us who served in the last 23 years. So, where does this all start? You may have heard, obviously, yesterday there was a wreath laying ceremony. The families of those who were killed in the Kabul bombing 3 years ago had a private wreath laying ceremony at Arlington. For those who don't understand, that is a common thing you can do if you're there. Any group, be it private citizens, nonprofits, veteran service organizations, can file and ask to have a wreath laying at the Tomb of the Unknown. My understanding is the families did do that and had a wreath laying. At some point, they invited Donald Trump to join them because they're supporters of Mr. Trump. Also, their choice. Where things get interesting is the fact that they ended up filming it and taking pictures and using it as a bit of a campaign stunt. You may have seen these reports yesterday on the screen from Trump laying the wreath. Again, no criticism of the Gold Star families. Gold Star families, that is their choice. I'll never disrespect a Gold Star family. Here at Vote Vets, it's just not what we do. That's their choice. I'm not going to criticize that. But this is where things get ugly. Arlington National Cemetery has very strict rules about political activity. There was a scandal about 2 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago, when a guy dropped out of the old guard. By the way, the old guard is that gentleman you see in the uniform right there. That is the 3rd United States Infantry. They are the tomb guards. They run Arlington National Cemetery, U.S. Army. A guy who had been former Arlington old guard ran for Congress in Virginia and used videos and pictures from Arlington in his campaign. That stunt got him in a lot of trouble. It's very big. So here's the rules for those who don't know. Partisan activities are inappropriate in Arlington National Cemetery due to its role as a shrine, the honor of dead, of the armed forces. You can read that. I'll leave it up on screen for a while for you to read. It's a very big deal. You don't use Arlington for politics, okay? The United States Army runs Arlington National Cemetery, not the VA, nobody else. It's actually run by the Army. It's been where we've been burying our dead since the Civil War. Why Arlington? Well, it just so happened to be Robert E. Lee's home. And the quartermaster at the time, General Meigs thought it'd be sort of an FU to bury our dead in Robert E. Lee's yard. And hey, here we are 150 years later, 200 years later. So those are the rules for Arlington National Cemetery as far as political activity. That is a no-no. So what does Trump do? Well, according to NPR, this report that just came out from NPR, well, here's what happened. You can see this here screenshots of the story. What you can see is that here is that 2 members of President Trump's campaign had a verbal and physical altercation with an official at Arlington National Cemetery on Monday. The cemetery official tried to prevent Trump from entering campaign staff from entering Section 60. They actually got in a fight over this topic. Our argument and an actual shoving match. The campaign staff verbally abused and pushed the official aside. President Trump had participated in a wreath. This was after that, as we said. Goes on to say they responded when NPR asked the Trump campaign, Stephen Chung, who's his just shitty human being, okay? His campaign spokesman denied the whole thing, says that a private house was permitted, and that's not true. And an unnamed individual, clearly suffering from a mental health episode, decided to physically block members of the staff. They're calling an Army civilian, a DA official, a physically, mentally unsound person because he tried to guard our most hallowed ground from being used for a campaign prop for Donald Trump. That's what they're saying in that statement. When Stephen Chung says this, what he's saying is we wanted to do what we wanted to do. And when somebody who works there tried to stop us, we thought he was crazy, so we assaulted him. That's what he's saying right there. When an Arlington National Cemetery official tried to guard the most hallowed ground in the United States Army from these shitty people. This was their response. So, Trump campaign, they said they've got footage, by the way. If you see in that statement, Chung says they have footage and they're going to release it. They did not release it. And here's the thing. Here's what gets me about the story. So I'm an old public affairs officer in the Army. I did press relations for the Army in the Pentagon, ironically, next door to Arlington. What's interesting to me about this last piece is NPR, this is Quill Lawrence, by the way, is one of the best military journalists in the country. When Quill Lawrence went back to National Cemetery, they confirmed that federal law prohibits political campaign activity or within Army, national, and military cemeteries to include photographers, content creators, or any other persons intended for purposes in direct support of a political candidate's campaign. We reinforced and widely shared that law. It's a law and its prohibitions. And we can confirm there was an incident and a report was filed. Okay, I can't tell you how significant this is. Okay, so as perspective, as you can see, I'm an old veteran. I was Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Army, and I retired after 22 years. The last 7 years of my career was spent as a public affairs officer. Okay, the idea that the United States Army, Arlington National Cemetery, went on the record with a statement condemning the Trump campaign for assaulting an employee, and also say in that statement they filed a report, which I assume with the police, that they were assaulted, is big. So with the Trump campaign trying to say, oh no, it's politics, they're libtards, there's about a 90% chance that employee is probably a supporter. Really, let's be honest. He wasn't trying to stop Trump. He was trying to defend the graves of a couple of thousand of our brothers and sisters who died in combat in the global war on terror for being used as a prop. Why? Because of this shit. Look at this picture. Look at this picture, you guys. That's the pictures he took. Smiling with his stupid fucking thumbs up at the grave of Sergeant Nicole G. Nicole G was the young lady who became famous because of a photo of her holding an Afghan baby the day before she was killed at the gate, trying to save as many Afghans as possible. He's standing there glowering like a jackass at the grave of a service member. The family's invited him. I get that. I do get that. That's their choice. But then to use that opportunity to honor our war dead, to honor these families, to stand at the grave with a stupid thumbs up and a giant grin on his face. And by the way, on the far right of your screen is the governor of Utah in this picture at the grave of a fallen Marine sergeant. They used that grave as a campaign stunt. And when they were told not to, they decided they were more important than decorum, than the law that regulates Arlington National Cemetery. It's shocking. So I want to come up here. I want to come on here quickly. My friend John Solt, our illustrious leader, and others said, hey, let's explain this to folks. So to be very clear, it's hard for me to put in perspective for those who haven't served how important Arlington is to those of us who have, especially Section 60. This is the place where our friends go when they die. I've walked through Section 60 and seen family members crying at graves every time, sitting next to a grave crying for their lost. We even buried 5 of our Iraqi allies there who died in a plane crash, or 3, I think there's 3 Iraqis and Americans who died in a plane crash. And because their remains were mixed in the fire, we buried them in a group grave in Section 60. So not only are our American heroes there, but our allies who fought by our side are buried there. Section 60 is the most hallowed ground of the global war on terror for those of us who volunteered in 9/11 to go serve. And Donald Trump and his asinine campaign decided they would use it for a stunt, to take pictures. All day long, we've been online, Vote Vets, myself personally, talking about this situation, criticizing them. We've been very careful to never criticize our Gold Star families. We've been getting face blasted by the supporters, the veterans who support Trump and others, telling us we're fools. And then tonight it comes out that they actually assaulted an employee of Arlington National Cemetery who tried to enforce the law that dictates decorum at the most hallowed ground in the United States military, so that Donald Trump could use it for a campaign stunt. And that's how it is, you guys. That's who Donald Trump is. That's who he's been for us in the beginning. He called us suckers and losers. Everybody denies that happened. General Kelly heard it. It all started for me way back. And the story, you guys know the story, July 2015, when Donald Trump appears at a conference, and when asked about John McCain's criticism of him, he said very clearly, John McCain's only a hero because he was captured. I like people who weren't captured. That's on camera. There's even a freaking GIF of it on Twitter. You can actually bring it up on Twitter. That's how documented it was. He didn't say John McCain. I don't like John McCain because he was a prisoner. He said, I like people who weren't captured. He doesn't like POWs. There were reports through his administration that he said he didn't want wounded warriors in pictures with them because it made him look bad. You guys know that when Donald Trump got COVID, he blamed Gold Star families for it? True story. Look it up. I broke that story when I was with the Lincoln Project. When he was asked how he got it, he said, these families of the dead, they love me. They just hug me. He thought he blamed the Gold Star families for giving him COVID, not the super spreader event the day before with Amy Coney Barrett in a crowded lawn and room when she got nominated to the Supreme Court. No, he blamed a little reception with Gold Star families. That's who Donald Trump is. That's who he's always been. Okay? So don't let him fool you. Don't let our opponents tell you that we're wrong. He has made it very clear what he stands for and who he is. He doesn't respect our service in any way, shape, or form. So, short video. I just want to get on here. Geez, 5,000 of you. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll do this again. I don't know if there's any questions. I can see here in the chat. Has anybody got any questions for me before I go? That's a good question. How is this not a crime? Believe it or not, it is. That's the kicker, you guys. This sounds like an actual crime. Political activity is prohibited. There probably could be an assault charge in there too for physically assaulting the employee of Arlington. So yeah, it actually might be a crime this time. Whoever did it, the photographer or Stephen Chung or whoever it was, no, it may actually be a no kidding crime, which is crazy, right? But it's true. But here we are. Any other questions? I'm solo, so bear with me, you guys. It is just disgusting that he would stand there with that giant smile on his face and over grave. So I'll leave you one more story. I am very blessed to know the young man who was the commander of those Marines. Great kid. I won't mention his name. I'm not going to dive him out. They got word that day that there was a possible bombing coming. And when he told his Marines, they said, no, we got to get more people in. So they were rushing to try and get more people through the gate. They were rushing to try and save more of our Afghan allies, more of our interpreters, more good, decent people caught in the crossfire of a war. So he warned his Marines, and then the bomb went off and killed hundreds of Afghans and 13 of our bravest men and women who were just trying to save lives. He went across the country when he got home. He visited every single family of the Marines, and he was a soldier, Navy corpsman. Yeah, young captain in the Marine Corps. Jeff Ball is his name. He wrote about it. A young man named Jeff Ball. I knew Jeff when he was a college student in Washington, D.C. But that young man was trying to save lives, and he lost 13 of his troops. And yesterday, Donald Trump used their graves as a campaign prop. Donald Trump decided that it's more important for him to get a dig on President Biden and Vice President Harris than to respect the men and women who gave their actual lives for this country. And I can't think of a single reason more why he's the most despicable, disgraceful man to ever set foot in the White House, the most disgraceful man to ever call commander in chief, ever. The question is, why were cameras allowed in that area? That's the kicker. They're normally not. That's what the argument was. They had an official photographer there. So for a big event like that, an official event like a wreath laying, there are official photographers who will stand there and take pictures and give them to the family out of respect. They don't want photographers tromping on the graves. They don't want photographers bumping into graves or being disrespectful of the families. Because circling back to what I mentioned earlier, there are always families in Section 60. Always. Any veterans here in the chat, you know, if you've been to Section 60, there's always families in Section 60. Always. And the concern is that someone who doesn't understand the protocol will take pictures of these families and use them inappropriately. So that's why they had an official photographer there. And these sons of bitches decided it was more important to get their shot of Donald Trump looking like a jackass. Let's look at that again. Look at that picture, you guys. This is probably right after they got in the fight, bulldozing their way through to get their photographer and their videographer through to take pictures of our graves, of our fallen. I'm not sure if the major next to him, the Marine Corps major next to that grave, really wanted to be part of that photo op. I'm not sure that Major Moises or Major Navas there, who died in Iraq, really wanted to be part of Donald Trump's campaign stunt. There's no way to know. Maybe we'll hear from his family. But there's rules for a reason. And Donald Trump thinks he's above them. As far as the mainstream media, hey, this report came from the mainstream media. If you guys don't follow Gainman, Quill Lawrence, Quil Lawrence, he's one of the best military journalists in the country. He's worked for NPR for years. I would trust him with my life. As a matter of fact, I think Quill's probably seen more combat than I did, and I did 4 combat tours. He is mainstream media. This is being reported by NPR. I hope others will pick it up. I think we're going to push it, but you can trust them and trust Quill Lawrence. You know, I'll tell you, you guys know, if you follow me, I beat up the political press a lot. Political press, they're crazy. I don't beat up the military press. The folks who work at the Pentagon Press Corps, or the folks who go downrange with us, like Quill Lawrence, Dan Lamothe and Washington Post and others. These are great reporters trying to do the right thing. It's a different breed, the guys and girls who cover the military. This story was broken by Quill Lawrence because he is relentless and he found out the truth. So I'll give kudos where kudos are deserved, and NPR deserves kudos on this one. So I'll let it go. Military Times is great too. I love Military Times. I'm sure they'll cover this. I can't imagine a scenario where Leo Shane is one of the lead guys at Military Times. I'm sure Leo is working this right now. I can't imagine a scenario where Leo Shane's not working this right now. Stars and Stripes will cover it. We'll get more. We're going to find out more, folks. We'll see if Stephen Chung's got that video. I'm dying to see it. I dare him. Go to his Twitter and dare him. The Stephen Chung. Dare him to show the video. I want to see the video that they supposedly took of their own. And I want to see it all. Make them release every single second of video and prove that they didn't do what they said they did. Make them prove that they didn't bulldoze the official staff at Arlington National Cemetery to take pictures of that jackass in his thumb. So let's get active, folks. Your vote vets, you support us. You're here because you support us. We love your support. This is what we do. Hold these guys accountable for their actions, and we need you to help us. I hope you'll support us for more. I'm not going to keep you longer. This is a breaking news story. As I get more information, I'll pop back on. So make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. You know, I'm at FP Wellman. We're at Vote Vets everywhere. Look us up. I appreciate 10,000 of you showing up in 20 minutes. And as you can see, my voice has had enough of my bullshit. So I'm going to let us go. But the final thought for all of you is I want you to remember this, okay? I want you to remember this freaking picture. And when you talk to your friends and neighbors about this election, remind them of who really stands with our veterans. Is the Biden administration that passed the PACT Act that's added over 1 million veterans to their benefits and their family members? Or is it this fucking clown who uses us as props? No, we aren't your prop. We served our country in 1 million different ways, some in combat, some on a ship, some in the air, some never left the United States, some stopped floods like Tim Waltz or forest fires. Many give their lives. Less than 7% of Americans are veterans. Less than 1% can serve. Less than a third of Americans are even eligible to join the military because of health or otherwise. We aren't perfect. We reflect the society we represent. We are you. But this guy thinks we're props. So with that, thanks all 10,000 of you for joining me. You know what to do. Let's hold him accountable. Let's get in the fight. It's 70 days, the election, to put this guy in the rearview mirror forever. That's the only answer to any of this, you guys. We got to beat this guy so resoundingly and so completely. He slinks back in the corner where he belongs, and we move forward as a country united together, make America better, a great country better. That's the only move. You got 70 days to get in the fight. If you're not in it yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining me. I'm with Fred Wellman, Iraq Army veteran, 22 years with Vote Vets.